My name's Dawn, and today I have something a little different for you. I have a crossover, fact and fiction of the 1920s, or about the 1920s. I tend to read very heavily in nonfiction. I'm about 50-50 as nonfiction to fiction, and I just want to show you how even what you're reading in fiction can lead to some really great nonfiction. And that's why I read in both. I like to have just a story, but then my mind gets churning and it leads me to want to learn more about something. So here we go. Like I said, I read heavily in both. So today's theme is 1920s, and I will just start with a fiction book. It's Laura Moriarty's The Chaperone, and it is a book about Louise Brooks, the actress from, with the blunt bob, and her chaperone and Louise go to New York. So it's drawing on the rich history of the 1920s, 30s, and beyond, from Prohibition and the Great Depression to the burgeoning movement for the women's rights. It illustrates how rapidly the world was changing at this time and what a vast difference it all made for Louise and her chaperone and others like them. I really, really like this book because it sets you down into the time. You get a good feel for it. It's a really well-read book. The narrator, if you listen to the audio, is the mom from Downton Abbey, so her voice is so relaxing. I just love this book. It's so good. A nonfiction that takes place before and a little bit after, like the 20s, but definitely talks about women during that time, is The Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women by Kate Moore. I loved this book. I give it a 5-star. It's nonfiction. It is about women who work in like a factory painting on dials of watches and clocks so that they glow. They're using radium, and they basically are getting poisoned, and the company knows this but doesn't do anything about it, and they take them to court. So it's amazing. The women speak up for themselves. They're literally dying by the day, but they're not giving up. And it's a really good book about the time. It shows the time very well, from the owners and the workers, the women and the men. So yeah, I highly recommend. Another fiction book that I recommend, that I've recommended before, is a novel of Zelda Fitzgerald by Therese and Fowler. This is going to give a very is it micro look at the certain time period, because it's just kind of the crazy set of people she went around with, so the partiers and stuff. Not all people who lived at this time were doing this, but it's so well written. You feel like you know the characters. You feel like you know the people as characters, and she talks about so many. I can't get my words out. Zelda and F. Scott Fitzgerald came across so many famous people in their lives and travels that it made me want to then go read biographies of these people, or find out more about them, or maybe find a fiction book that had them in it. So like Ernest Hemingway, or there's lots of people that are mentioned in this book. I would highly recommend it. A fiction one that I don't have with me, but that kind of goes along with the flapperish attitude of this one, is called Flapper, a Madcap Story of Sex, Style, Celebrity, and the Women Who Made Modern America by Joshua Zeitz. it's a really good nonfiction pick that it's like little mini biographies of famous women during this time and like what the flapper actually was and how they defined themselves and found a space for themselves in society. It was really good. My last fiction for this crossover is Dollface, a novel of the Roaring Twenties by Renee Rosen. Renee Rosen does great historical fiction. America in the 1920s was a country alive with the wild fun of jazz, speakeasies, and a new kind of woman, the flapper. And I believe this touches on... Yeah, it touches on Prohibition, and it touches on gangsters a little bit. I think one of the flappers in here is maybe connected to some gangsters. So you have a little gangster action in here, as well as Prohibition, as well as, you know, rum running and speakeasies and all of that. It gives you a really good view of just that little point of view. Really good. And my last for the crossover is a nonfiction. Again, I don't have it, but I highly recommend it. It's called Tinseltown, Murder, Morphine, and Madness at the Dawn of Hollywood by William J. Mann. And what I like about this one is it's a untold Hollywood story, an addictive true tale of ambition, scandal, intrigue, murder, and the creation of the modern film industry. Yeah, so it's in Hollywood, so it's definitely not, some of these take place in New York and Europe and Chicago, so this is on the other coast, and it talks about Hollywood, and there is a murder, and it's unsolved, and it's still unsolved to this day, and just kind of all the juiciness of that time period, I guess, the craziness, the lawlessness, and what was going on. So I hope you guys enjoyed that crossover. I plan to do these more often because I really think people should read more nonfiction and not be so scared of it. There's nonfiction out there for everyone. Let me know if you plan to read any of these books. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm just a little channel trying to make it out there in the YouTube world. And don't forget to use your library card. I hope you guys have a good day.